There's a moment in every major financial shift when the outcome is already decided, but almost no one realizes it yet. That moment is now. While millions of investors are distracted by stock rallies, interest rates, and short-term gains, something far more important has already taken place behind the scenes. A silent transfer, a shift in power, a move that will redefine wealth for decades to come. The shocking part is not just what happened, but how quietly it happened. By the time most people notice, it will already be too late to react. And right now, you're standing right at the edge of that realization. For decades, investors in the West have been taught a very specific way to think about money. Buy stocks, trust the system, rely on banks, and treat gold as something outdated, something primitive, something that belongs to the past. Financial institutions, advisors, and media narratives all reinforce the same belief. Modern finance had evolved beyond the need for hard assets. And for a long time, that belief seemed to work. Markets grew, tech stocks exploded, paper wealth multiplied. Everything pointed toward a future where digital assets, currencies, and financial instruments would dominate. Gold, on the other hand, was often dismissed as unproductive. It did not pay dividends. It did not generate income. It just sat there. But that mindset created a dangerous blind spot. Because while Western investors were moving deeper into paper-based systems, they slowly became disconnected from one fundamental truth. Value is not just about growth. It is about preservation. And preservation requires something that cannot be manipulated, frozen, or devalued overnight. At the same time, trust in financial systems began to face subtle cracks. Inflation started eroding purchasing power. Governments increased debt levels to historic highs. Central banks printed unprecedented amounts of money. Yet most people continued to trust that everything was under control. This is where the real problem begins. When an entire system is built on confidence, even small cracks can eventually turn into major fractures. And the biggest risk is not sudden collapse, but gradual erosion. The kind that happens slowly enough that people adjust to it without realizing what they are losing. Meanwhile, another part of the world was watching carefully. They were not ignoring these signals. They were learning from them. And instead of following the same path, they started preparing for a different future. A future where trust in paper systems might not be enough. A future where real, tangible assets would matter again. The problem is simple, but severe. Most Western investors are still playing by old assumptions in a game that has already changed. Now here is where things get interesting. Because what looks like a normal market environment on the surface is actually hiding a massive shift underneath. Or consider what it means when demand for a particular asset is exploding in one region of the world, while declining in another, not randomly, but consistently over time. Then think about capital flows, trillions of dollars sitting in low-yield assets, while an alternative asset with a long history of preserving value receives only a tiny fraction of that capital. Individually, these observations might not seem significant, but when you connect them together, they start forming a very clear picture. A picture of imbalance, a picture of transition, a picture of something moving from one group of hands to another. And this is where most people get caught off guard, because they assume markets move based on headlines, trends, or short-term events. But the biggest moves in history rarely happen that way. They happen quietly, gradually, until suddenly the effects become impossible to ignore. What you're about to see is not just a collection of random observations. It is a sequence, a chain of events that explains exactly how a major shift in financial power has already taken place. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. To truly understand what is unfolding today, you have to step back and look at how different societies have historically viewed wealth, security, and trust. In much of the Western world, especially over the last 40 to 50 years, the idea of wealth became deeply tied to financial systems. Financial experts often dismissed it as an asset that just sits there, doing nothing. Compared to fast-growing equities or high-yield investments, gold seemed boring. So over time, something subtle but powerful happened. Western investors didn't just reduce their exposure to gold, they stopped thinking about it altogether. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a very different mindset continued to exist. In many Eastern countries, the relationship with money was shaped by completely different experiences. There had been periods of instability, currency devaluations, economic crises, government interventions. These were not distant historical events. They were lived realities for millions of people. Because of that, trust in financial systems was never absolute. People participated in markets, yes, but they also believed in owning something tangible, something real, something that could not be erased by policy decisions or economic shifts. Gold fit that role perfectly. It was not just an investment, it was protection. Families passed it down through generations. It was bought during times of prosperity and held during times of uncertainty. It represented stability in a world that could change quickly. As globalization accelerated, these two mindsets existed side by side. For a while, the Western model appeared dominant. Economic growth was stronger. Financial markets expanded rapidly. Technology drove new opportunities. It seemed like the future belonged to paper assets and digital wealth. But beneath the surface, a different trend was quietly developing. Gold was moving. Not in a dramatic, headline-grabbing way, but steadily, consistently. Year after year, large quantities of physical gold began shifting from Western markets to Eastern buyers. Some of it was purchased by central banks, some by institutions, a significant portion by individuals. At first, this movement didn't attract much attention. Why would it? A form of financial security that existed outside the traditional banking system. Meanwhile, in the West, behavior followed a very different pattern. Gold demand was reactive. During times of crisis, financial crashes, pandemics, geopolitical tensions, interest in gold would spike. Investors would rush in, seeking safety. But as soon as conditions stabilized, that interest would fade. People would sell their holdings and move back into equities, bonds, or cash. It became a cycle driven by emotion rather than long-term strategy. Buy when afraid, sell when comfortable. On the surface, this seemed logical, but over time it created a major imbalance. Because every time gold was sold in the West, it didn't vanish. This gradually reduced the amount of available supply in active markets. But the most important shift was not just physical, it was psychological. In the West, gold remained a trade. In the East, gold became a foundation. Came a series of global events that changed everything. Actions taken by governments and financial institutions revealed something that many had overlooked. Assets within the system are not always fully under your control. Under certain circumstances, access can be restricted. Transactions can be limited. Reserves can be frozen. For many observers, this was a turning point. It highlighted a fundamental risk that had always existed but was rarely acknowledged. The risk of relying entirely on systems that depend on trust and policy. In response, behavior began to shift, especially in regions that had already been accumulating gold. Demand increased, not out of fear alone, but out of realization. Gold was no longer just a hedge. It was becoming a strategic asset. At the same time, Western markets continued to prioritize liquidity and convenience. Large amounts of capital flowed into money market funds. Investors held significant cash positions. Equity markets continued attracting massive inflows. Gold remained a relatively small allocation. This created a growing disconnect, because while one part of the world was increasing its exposure to physical assets, another was becoming more dependent on financial systems. And this is where the story reaches its critical point, not suddenly enough to make headlines. And right now, that difference in motivation may be the most important factor of all. Now everything begins to connect. What once looked like separate trends, regional demand shifts, changing investor behavior, rising prices, are actually pieces of a much larger transformation. A transformation that has been building quietly for years, but is now reaching a point where it can no longer be ignored. At its core, this shift is about control. For a long time, the gold market was heavily influenced by Western investors, institutions, and financial systems. Pricing, sentiment, and demand were largely shaped by their actions. But that influence has been steadily weakening, not because gold became less important, but because ownership changed. When an asset moves from short-term holders to long-term holders, the entire structure of the market changes. Liquidity decreases, availability tightens, and most importantly, the behavior of that asset becomes less predictable to those who no longer control it. That is exactly what has happened here. A significant portion of physical gold has moved into the hands of buyers who are not interested in selling under normal conditions. These are not traders looking for quick profits. These are entities and individuals focused on preservation, security, and long-term positioning. This creates a new dynamic, because when demand rises in a market where supply is tightly held, prices do not simply increase gradually. They adjust more aggressively, sometimes suddenly. Now consider where we are today. The gold market, in comparison to global financial assets, is relatively small. This means it does not take a massive reallocation to create a significant impact. Even a modest shift in capital can create disproportionate pressure on price. And when that happens in a market where supply is already concentrated in strong hands, the effects become amplified. This is where the idea of scarcity becomes real. Not theoretical scarcity, but practical scarcity, where buyers struggle to find sellers at expected prices, where demand increases faster than supply can respond. The later you understand it, the fewer choices remain. So consider this an invitation to think deeper, not just about gold, but about how wealth is stored, protected, and transferred over time. And if this perspective made you rethink anything, even slightly, then it has already done its job. Remember how this started. A shift that most people did not notice, a change that happened quietly without headlines or urgency. Now you have seen how that shift unfolded. You have seen the patterns, the behavior, the movement. And more importantly, you have seen the implications. But here is the final piece. Moments like this do not stay hidden forever. Eventually, awareness spreads. More people begin to connect the dots. More capital begins to move. And when that happens, the environment changes rapidly. Opportunities that once existed quietly become crowded. Decisions that once had flexibility become urgent. That is how major transitions play out. The question is simple. When that broader realization happens, where will you be positioned? Because by the time everyone sees it clearly, the advantage of early understanding will already be gone. And that brings you right back to where we began, standing at the edge of a realization that most people have not reached yet. What you do next is entirely up to you.